what brings us together yet again is the state of police violence. Um, in the last year, obviously, we've had a lot of discussions about it. We've had protests, we've had reactions to said protests. But the one constant seems to be is that the police cannot seem to manage to do their job without incredible amounts of violence. And, we all have different connections to these cases. But I mean, I think it's safe to say these affect everybody in the community, and they should be of concern to everybody in the community, because this does not happen other places. But the three incidents I would say in the last year, and these are in the last year since the massive protests, global protests around the murder of George Floyd. We've had a homeless man executed for standing outside of a shop and getting into an altercation with the police and then trying to run away and getting shot. We have the murder of Stavion Rodriguez, who, was attempting, I guess, to rob a store, and the police had him surrounded and still managed to not be able to end it without violence. And then most recently, Daniel Hobbs. And I'm kind of doing all this setup here real quick, but I don't think I'm gonna play the video because I get tired of watching these. I only finally watched it myself last night. I skimmed through it before, so I at least had like a general idea of what it was. But I finally watched it last night, and this is the police's edited version of it, and you can find it on their YouTube channel. It's Oklahoma State Police Department. I don't even know if I encourage people to watch it. I mean, but at least listen to the beginning and listen to the end, because like what the takeaway for me is a few things, and then I'd love your guys' reactions as well. But is one, it's extremely polished, right? Like this happened, I think May 8th is when the actual shooting happened, and this came out May 13th. So I mean, within a few days, they were able to put together this 5-minute video of their breakdown of the incident. But I mean, what it comes down to is this man is a man standing in a yard in a neighborhood of single-family homes smoking a cigarette. And a woman calls and says, "I don't think this guy's supposed to be there. I think he has some order against him. Y'all need to come check it out." That's the call. That's the issue at hand, is a man standing in his front yard smoking a cigarette, staring at the sky. They mentioned that too. And the guy confirms it within 10 seconds of the encounter with the police officer. And within like 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, I mean, like what, 45 seconds? He's dead. The officer just immediately ramps it up to 11. The man says, like, I don't get what you're doing to me. Like, I'm just standing here. Like, leave me alone. And the officer, they get into a scuffle, and the officer shoots him 4 times, and there's so many things wrong with this. But then the aftermath of it, at the end of the video, they say that this man had no, because they claimed he had a VPO, which is a victim protection order, which is like supposed to stay away from people. Sorry, I can't remember the other term for it. But anyway, he didn't have that. So that was false. Like, the neighbor said that. They didn't bother to look it up, I guess. So I mean, it's like this whole thing began on a false premise. The man seemed to have every right to be there, and I mean, I don't know, like what I don't know. I don't know how. I don't understand how this keeps happening, because like this man wasn't committing a crime. He wasn't armed. He had no criminal thing going on. I mean, it's just like you just straight up got in this dude's face, pissed him off, and then shot him for it. And it's just like, how does this keep happening?
Yeah, I mean, I ask myself, how does this keep happening every time? And it's happening more and more frequently, that we can't answer those questions before the next, incident occurs. And this last incident with Daniel Hobbs, as the story's coming out, I'm more and more horrified myself. And um, let's just to set it up, the premise, like, this was kind of a new PR approach for our police department as far as like how they're presenting, the details to the public, because we've had some really messy things happen recently. And even this like polished up, video was just horrific.
Yeah,
There
big
were
yikes.
so many procedural issues that didn't have to go wrong along the way. I mean, so many issues. I just am baffled.
Well, and I forgot to mention, this officer had the training,
Yeah,
the CIT, which is what is it?
Crisis intervention training.
Crisis intervention
These
training.
are highly trained
Yeah.
officers in how to de-escalate situations, particularly mental health crisis type situations. And again, in 45 seconds, the span of this clip, I saw nothing that indicated any sort of specialized training. It was like watching another murder. It's like watching another murder again.
And so, with this training, they also get extra pay. Anyway, so the point here being is that the whole argument right now in the police's budget presentation is that we are this highly trained group of professionals we're already doing everything right, guys. And I think from like a reasonable policy standpoint is you shouldn't look at like necessarily the inputs, like what you're doing. You should be looking at the outcomes. Yeah, like how is that working out for you? And like, are you having better experiences? And when you see stuff like this, it is clear you are not.